Hey guys, this is going to be the first video in a series of videos where I think a lot of e-bike influencer reviewers just don't understand some concepts about batteries and e-bikes. So I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I have built batteries from scratch and I spec'd out the batteries and understand like the specifications and safety and different kind of things that go along with building e-bikes and what they're capable of. Not to say that it's bad, but I'm just saying that it's kind of like it's not hard. It's not also it's not really hard to understand this as well. I mean, it's very basic graphs. I think reviewers should just be more aware of these things because it does actually have a material impact on what people decide to buy and how they use their e-bikes. There's a couple of channels that actually speak about this, but I just want to go over the first thing and probably the most, to my mind, egregious thing is that regardless of the current, you will meet regardless of the current, the capacity is always the same. So let's just watch this clip real quick from Tail Happy TV. Again, this guy, I really like his videos. He's very cool, very positive attitude. I just don't think this is just not correct information. So let's just listen real quick.
No, over 2,000 watts of power. However, if you were to run 2,000 watts of power on a 1,200 watt hour battery, well, I mean, you'd be out of battery before an hour.
Okay, so here what he's doing is that he has a 1,200 watt hour battery, so 1.2 watt hour or 1,200 watt hour battery, a 1.2 kilowatt hour battery. He's running it at 2,000 watts, which is probably close to max amps. And he's saying that it'll give you 36 minutes of runtime. This is not true and not correct. So I think this is important for people is that if you want to spec out a bike, let's just say you want to run it at 2,000 watts and you want to run it for like, let's just say regardless of like battery health, like, if you should do this or not, and you want to run it for 36 minutes, this is not correct. And the reason why is that battery current is directly related to capacity and energy output. And what I'm going to show you next is basically, so here I just want to show you that I'm not using a cheap ass battery. So this is basically 1865 battery store, and we're going over the different types of batteries. So we're going to use, for example, this 25S battery, which is an 1865 battery, has a 2.5 milliamp capacity. It's a 25 amp hour battery, which means it's rated for high discharge. And there's no other battery that has that kind of rating at this point. So this is a very nice, expensive e-bike battery. And now we take a look at, so this is an independent study of the same battery, the 25S. And if you can see the graph, the red is basically you're running it at 0.2 amps, which most of us probably would not run it at 0.2 amps. The yellow is running it at max amps. In this case, he's actually a little over. He's at 30 amp capacity. As you can see, and the red, as the lines go down, as the amperage increases. As you can see, as the amperage increases, the watt hour capacity of the bike decreases significantly. So in this case, let me just bring up the calculator real quick. So in an ideal scenario, I usually use 1 amp hour as the standard. So that is the blue string. So this is a little under 9. Let's call that, let's call that 8.8 or something like that. So this yellow line, this is basically this running it at maximum speed, maximum power. So this is around what, 7? I wish this was an actual graph or table with values, but let's just say that's like 7.2 and divided by the blue line, which is like 8.8. So that's an 81%. So if, in my mind, if you want to have 12, this is only true and like closely, not 100%, is if you run this 1200 watt hour, this is 48 watt hour battery at 48 watts, you will get, this approximation will be very close to being true. This is nowhere close to be true. This is closer to 81%. So we take 80%, 81% times 36, you're going to get 29 minutes instead. But it's still, okay, you might think that that's a big difference, but that is a 81%. That's a close to a 20% difference in the capacity. So I think that is literally, that's the most egregious thing, because I don't understand how the reviewers kind of don't understand this. This is again, Tail Happy TV. He's a great reviewer, super cool, super good vibes on his channel. Um, he seems to be probably less technical uh, than I hope, but this is not correct. This is like, I mean, this is not correct. No chemistry. Actually, I'm sorry. I think the only chemistry that will produce this is if you actually had a capacitor battery, capacitor. Sorry, I'm a little underwater. Capacity battery type, um, capacity battery type e-bike, which, you know, those are not actually possible at the moment. But yeah. So this is kind of the number one thing. So why is this important? This is important because I feel there's 5 different categories people fall under in terms of their e-bikes. There's so in Tail Happy's situation, he basically just goes max speed pretty much all the time. I think a lot. I think most people fall into this category, so they're going to max speed to high speed. So this is a 30 mile per hour bike. So in throttle only, for the most part, right? So they're probably in this situation here, and that's important because if you have a bike that you want to go an hour with it, you have to, in this case, reduce it by 80%. In this case, well, what they advertise, reduce it probably by like 85%, right? This is where I fall under. Um, I use medium to high speed when I'm going to work on the e-bike, which I'm not really doing now because it's getting colder. But most of the time, I'm just going at like a PAS of between 10 to 15 miles per hour. And in this case, excuse me, I think I'll be closer to 90% of the actual true capacity of the battery. Um, if you're one of those people, and there's a lot of people, not sure if there's a lot of people, but I think there's some people that go 10 to 15 only on PAS and really never take it on throttle only to use speeds. They're going to get like 90 to 93%. And then if you're actually going below 10 miles per hour, 10 miles per hour or below, maybe let's just say you're going for a really, really long distance ride, um, you're probably going to get close to 95%. And this is considering using one of these, a really good branded Samsung cell or like a Panasonic cell or an LG cell. You'll get something like, you'll get those numbers. I think the other video I want to talk about next is just the battery quality difference between, like, so a lot of the batteries out there now on these e-bikes, except for this one actually. So this one. Okay, we'll talk about this because we're this is a separate video. But that's kind of my point on this. This is not really correct. I'm not sure if you are going to use this as some type of like calculator or deciding what you want to do. So if you're going to go max speed, just take that number and the multiply it by 0.8. So you're gonna get a 20% reduction in range if you're just gonna go max speed all the time. And that is not even considering if you should do that. But anyway, that's the first of many videos that I'm gonna talk about just about people don't kind of, they're not quite informed about e-bikes and batteries.